I cultivated myself from a stubborn rock, knowing nothing of human emotions. First, I became a concubine to the crown prince. Then I was bestowed upon the top scholar, Willis. Willis disliked me, so I slept with the maids in the corridor, from spring to winter. Later, he sighed and carried me into the bedroom. I didn't expect you to be so foolish. Oh well, sleep here from now on. Willis lay beside me, clearly not asleep. My original body was a stone. I was used to sleeping on the ground, so I was unaccustomed to the bed. My lord, why do you say I'm foolish? I snuggled closer to him. Ernest. Moonlight streamed through the lattice window, dancing on the bluestone floor, illuminating the surroundings brightly. Willis turned to me. Seeing my lack of response, he countered, how did someone as naive as you survive in the Eastern Palace? His breath, faint and soft, brushed against my face, tickling slightly. His hair was half undone, and his soft voice was unlike his usual stern demeanor. I looked into his eyes, unconsciously softening my tone. The Eastern Palace never lacked for food or clothing. Why wouldn't I survive? Willis paused, then sighed again. Was His Highness, the Crown Prince, good to you? Without hesitation, I replied, very good. Then why did he send you to me? Perhaps His Highness had his reasons, I answered, feeling sleep creep in. I habitually placed my foot on his leg for warmth. He hissed softly, frowning as he caught my ankle. I shivered, too lazy to pull my foot back. Before, when it was cold at night, I would warm myself like this a few times. His Highness would be angry and wouldn't speak to me for a long time. Later, my sleeping quarters had several times more charcoal fires than the other concubines. The person opposite me paused. Do you favor him? I thought for a moment, then said I liked Willis. Willis looked like he wanted to say something but then gave up. He forcefully placed my foot between his legs, taking a deep breath. You probably don't even know what it means to fall in love. I won't argue with you. His body was as hot as a furnace. Even the nearby bedding was warm. I squeezed closer into his embrace, feeling even hotter. This was my first life as a human. 6 years ago, I was still diligently absorbing water spirits in a hot spring. If my cultivation didn't progress, my body would lighten. When I surfaced, that would be the time of exhaustion. No one knew what I would transform into. Heaven blessed me, and I became a 12-year-old girl. That place was the Crown Prince's hot spring villa. I was found by the head matron and raised as her daughter. At 14, I gained favor and entered the Eastern Palace. At 17, I was bestowed upon the new top scholar. I had been in Willis's mansion for almost a year, now nearly 18. Almost everyone who had met me would ask, is the Crown Prince handsome? Those who bore resentment would even grant me a few words. Master Willis risked his life to ask the Crown Prince for you, yet you haven't received his favor after a year in the mansion? I answered each question. The Crown Prince is majestic and handsome, and Master Willis is upright and distinguished. Most likely, they found me boring. Those who wanted gossip were satisfied. Those who wanted to pry, seeing I was impenetrable, didn't bother to waste more words. Boring was indeed the assessment Sean left when he sent me away. That day, Sean was with Willis, chatting idly, not avoiding me. They played Go while discussing current events. The Crown Prince said the white pieces were upright but trapped in a corner, which was a pity. Willis's strategy was expansive, making every move irreversible. Each had their own destiny. The black and white pieces were pressed down harder and harder, as if hail was falling on the ground. I couldn't understand, nor could I hear. I sat by, listening intently. Finally, the game cooled, and they sat in silence, both looking displeased. Willis's face was cold, but he glanced at me. His Highness's maid is quite well behaved, isn't she? Sean secretly grasped my hand under his sleeve, then slowly released it. This is a wooden beauty, quite boring. Since Willis likes her, I'll bestow her upon him. Willis neither said yes nor no, his gaze fixed on my face, almost burning a hole through it. Hearing this, I put down the teapot and obediently sat by Willis's side. Only then did he rise, bow, and thank the prince for the gift. Before leaving, Sean gave me half an hour to pack. He stood behind a screen, saying an unusual amount of things. Willis's mansion is dilapidated. If you can't get used to it, write back. I'll send someone to give you money. I was removing a jeweled hairpin, looking back confused. I'll get used to it, I said. Your Highness needn't worry about me. I picked out a few garments, rolled them into a small bundle, and slowly exhaled. Is this all you're taking? You don't want the rest? His gaze fell on the windowsill, where pearls and jade shimmered. and a pigeon's blood ruby glowed brightly. I shook my head. Those are things from the Eastern Palace. In truth, I didn't like jewels. I myself was a stone, and having seen so many beautiful counterparts, I no longer found them extraordinary. Besides, wearing them on my head hurt my neck. As I passed Sean, an inch of my sleeve was caught. When I turned back, his face was once again calm. He stood at the steps of the Eastern Palace, watching me board Willis's carriage. When I boarded, I knew Sean's words were true. There were only 2 horses pulling the carriage, and the space was small, only enough for 4 people to sit facing each other. The carriage was old, and the interior was lined with horsehair. Willis's mansion could not be called a true mansion. It was just a larger house, a rare sight among the noble residences in the capital. Being so impoverished, Willis's attendant had already told me the current situation, saying that his young master, as an editor in the Hanlon Academy, had a very low salary. He also mentioned that Willis's teacher was the former prime minister of the previous emperor's reign, a pure scholar, so being poor was not a big deal. He probably thought Willis would spend a lot of money on me. I sat in the carriage, thinking. After returning to the mansion, I pawned all the luxurious clothes in my bundle. Willis didn't say how to arrange my living situation. There were only 2 main courtyards in the mansion. Willis occupied one. The other was naturally for the mistress. I had no official status, so I couldn't go there. Previously, in the Eastern Palace, the Crown Prince had favored me, but he hadn't given me a title. All the women who hadn't married yet were considered close attendants. When the maids saw me going to the servants' quarters to sleep, they were quite frightened. So, I just spread my bedding and slept with the night duty maids outside the study. After more than a month, the maid who served tea had a stomachache and asked me to take her place. Willis recognized me and frowned deeply. "Why are you dressed like this?" I blinked, puzzled. "Does my lord dislike it?" He seemed to recall something. "You've been sleeping outside all this time?" I nodded. He didn't speak, just frowned and stared at me. "Phoebe is unwell. She asked me to deliver tea this once. If my lord dislikes it, I won't come again." I put down the teacup and explained. He didn't know that with my hearing, I could hear anything I wanted, but I simply didn't like to meddle in other people's affairs. Willis's brow twitched, as if he hadn't expected me to be so direct. "Go find a comfortable place to live." He averted his eyes, no longer looking at me. I continued to sleep in the corridor, just farther from the study. Spring in the capital often brought rain. Raindrops dripped from the eaves, splashing on the bluestone slabs. Watching the shallow puddles form on the ground always reminded me of the past, the damp feeling of being a stone submerged in water. Spring turned to autumn, and I became familiar with the maids, because I was easy to talk to. There was always someone asking me to help with chores. Willis gradually got used to me carrying trays in and out. More and more complex gazes fell upon my face. When they discovered my handwriting wasn't very neat, they asked me what third-rate teacher I had studied with as a child. I put down my brush. "My lord, I've never studied. I taught myself." He was incredulous. "Your family could send you to the Eastern Palace, but they didn't think to hire a tutor?" "I don't have a family," I said. "I only have one foster mother, Matron Jean, from the Crown Prince's villa." Willis fiddled with his brush, the tip trembling. He pursed his lips, looking very guilty. Within a few days, he had new, warm clothes made for me. Horace said his young master was clumsy with words and that this was his apology gift. I changed into a bright new outfit and went to find Willis. He stared at me without blinking. After I spun around, he held a book of sages and murmured for a long time. As autumn deepened, Willis gradually made a name for himself in officialdom. The mansion was expanded, and many more servants were added. I didn't want to live alone, so Willis set up a soft couch for me in his study. He slept while I slept. When he met friends, I would also sleep behind the screen. Willis's mansion had abundant spiritual energy. Every day, I slept deeply, cultivating my energy. However, my cultivation had reached a bottleneck. Although I had cultivated a human form, I still had a stone heart. Only by comprehending the meaning of emotion could I become a true human. But how to comprehend it? Heaven had given no guidance. Today, I slept a little too long. When I woke with a start, Willis was sitting by my couch, gently tickling my ear with a strand of my hair. I sat up quickly, almost bumping into Willis's face. He stiffened slightly, steadied me, and lowered his eyes. I yawned and opened my eyes. "My lord, is something the matter?" He shook his head. He looked around. The officials who had come to discuss matters with him had already left. I asked. Are you hungry? His gaze fell on my lips, then moved away. Then he stroked my head. I got up and went out to change my fan. As I walked away, I faintly heard Willis talking to his guard. Horace, is she truly without any peculiarities? Reporting, my lord. Miss Agatha is prone to sleepiness. Aside from serving tea and snacks, she rests at all other times. Who in the mansion is close to her? The young lady does not seem to like socializing and has no friends. Perhaps it is because there are many ill-spoken people in the mansion disturbing the peace. Willis replied with silence. After a few rustles of paper, Horace added, your subordinate inquired with the matron at the Eastern Palace. The young lady, being childlike, never mentioned vying for favor. She never spoke a soft word to His Highness the Crown Prince. Moreover, she is uneducated and talentless. She truly doesn't seem like a spy. My lord, in your subordinate's opinion, this is not a matter of being skilled at deception. It's purely that she still doesn't recognize your subordinate's face. What kind of spy doesn't even recognize people after half a year? Uneducated and talentless. That's certainly true. Qin, Go, calligraphy, and painting cannot be mastered quickly. They truly are difficult for me. If I hadn't learned quickly, I might not even recognize characters now. I listened carefully for Willis's reply. After a long while, I heard a low murmur. It's my fault for being suspicious and wronging her. On the first day of winter, Agatha, the maid bestowed from the Eastern Palace, finally gained favor. That's what everyone in the mansion said. I climbed out of Willis's bed and, as usual, went to the pantry for refreshments. The maids in the corridor had various expressions. Extremely excited. Only then did I realize that overnight, all sorts of rumors had spread like wildfire, with different versions, but all essentially saying the same thing. Miss Jiang had fooled around with Willis in the corridor, causing a scene. Early in the morning, the housekeeper caught the servant who spread the rumors, beat him, and drove him out of the mansion. Phoebe tugged at me, asking if, as a concubine, I could ask for her to serve me. I was confused. A concubine? Yes. Phoebe's face was flushed. But didn't he promise you anything last night? Oh, I said. He told me to sleep in here from now on. Isn't that just a chambermaid? She was extremely disappointed. She tugged at my sleeve, still unwilling to give up. If you try hard, maybe you can become half a mistress. Before, in the Eastern Palace, the maids would also urge me, saying, young lady, if you gain favor and coax the crown prince a bit more, maybe you can climb to the position of a royal concubine. Then you can live in a bigger house, eat better food, and wear softer fabrics. I thought to myself that even without vying for favor, my food, clothing, and housing were already pretty good. When my status was higher, the rules would be stricter. When I first entered the Eastern Palace and hadn't gained favor, I only needed to wear a silver hairpin. Later, as the crown prince visited more often, the things on my head increased. The matron would stare at me all day, constantly saying I was disrespectful. It's better to be free now. Willis tried to bestow gifts on me several times, but I refused for this reason. He laughed a few times and was very pleased with me. He said, men all like beautiful women, but beautiful women are dangerous, and beautiful and smart women are even more dangerous. But you are both smart and foolish. You do everything openly, so there's no need to guard against you. If you don't want anything, you don't have to worry about being bribed or harboring malicious intentions. The harmless are the most precious. Most of the concubines in the Eastern Palace probably saw me this way. A favored concubine once falsely accused me of being arrogant and secretly bullying her, crying to the side concubine. All the concubines in the palace wanted to laugh but couldn't. Finally, the crown prince came in person. He pointed at that scheming woman and motioned for me to come over. Agatha, tell him, if you were angry, what would you do? I wiped my hands clean, walked over, and slapped him. He was immediately stunned. Sean laughed, waved his hand, and ordered her to be taken away. No one had a good impression of her anymore, and they would spare no effort to deal with her. For several years, I had been used to a life where no one provoked me, and I didn't provoke anyone. Seeing I was unmoved, Phoebe sighed and followed me. If you don't plan for yourself, you should at least think about your future children. Ah, children? I stood still, holding the food box. Nothing happened last night. I won't have children. A stone heart can only maintain my human form. It cannot allow me to bear offspring. Phoebe was thunderstruck. You mean Master didn't touch you last night? I nodded. She mumbled something about not working and lack of virility and walked away dejectedly. Not long after, new rumors spread. It was dinner time. Willis kept nagging me not to be picky eaters. I secretly peeled off the chicken skin to the side. As we were having our little battle of wits, Horace entered, fuming. His gaze subtly darted between me and Willis. His lips were tightly sealed. Willis raised his eyelids and put another piece of meat into my bowl. Horace stammered, constantly looking at me. I put down my chopsticks, and Willis pulled me back into his embrace. He looked displeased. "Speak if you have something to say. There's nothing to hide. It's just some idle talk going around." Horace lowered his head and, with a hardened resolve, blurted out, "They say my lord is merely holding a beauty in his arms, unable to enjoy her." The hand wrapped around my waist stiffened. I turned to look at Willis. Blood rushed to his fair face, turning him crimson in a few breaths. I quickly lowered my head, feigning death. He took a deep breath, his palm clenching and unclenching. He gritted his teeth and covered my ears. "Very well. Have you found out who spread this?" Horace cautiously glanced at me. Willis followed his gaze and looked down. I was sitting obediently, my face full of confusion. "Why are you looking at him?" Willis turned to Horace. "How could she spread such words?" "That's right." I curled up and buried myself in Willis's arms. Unexpectedly, my gaze met Horace's. Horace's face instantly turned beet red. He almost couldn't maintain his composure. Willis sighed. "Go investigate thoroughly and rectify the atmosphere in the mansion." Horace bowed and retreated, closing the door. The air fell silent for a moment. I cautiously moved back, picked up my rice bowl. Willis parted his lips, his expression still unnatural. He straightened his clothes, casually picked up a few stacks of letters. "I have official duties. You entertain yourself." Before I could respond, the door opened and closed. His hurried footsteps and rustling robes stirred up fine dust like gauze. He was embarrassed. He probably wouldn't come to see me for a while. Men are such twisted creatures. I guessed correctly. It wasn't even dinner time yet when the housekeeper sent word that Willis had matters to attend to and might not return to the mansion for a few days. I was happy to have leisure time and considered going out to the market. This morning, I sat idly in the garden and saw Phoebe holding scissors, incessantly gnawing on plum branches. Usually, her mouth was the busiest, always bothering others until they came to talk to me, but now she was a mute gourd. I asked, "Why aren't you talking?" Phoebe looked around, then plunked herself down beside me, lowering her voice. "Someone spread some gossip, and the matron got upset. Luckily, you were there, or I'd be done for, but I don't remember helping you with anything." "How so?" "The housekeeper was going to fine me," I said. "You told him that I would be unhappy if I was fined. Since you're the only one in the whole mansion I get along with, now even the matron doesn't dare scold me. This isn't good." I put down my fishing rod. "His official position has risen, so he will definitely be stricter with the rules in the future. You using me as a shield won't last. It's better to speak less." She didn't like what I said and changed the topic. All right. I'll tell you something new. Willis went to the Crown Prince's mansion before. That's a first. Aren't you curious what they talked about when they met? One is your savior, the other." I interrupted her. "How do you know?" "Don't mess with me. My Phoebe's news travels faster than the censors across the street. I just asked casually, and I found out. Willis and Sean didn't seem to have any private interactions. If they did, it was like a needle against an awl. They'd cause trouble. Sean never treated me poorly, and neither did Willis. Personally, I didn't want them to confront each other, nor did I want them to get close. If they got close, they'd trouble me." 2 days of talks at the Crown Prince's mansion. I wonder what it was about. Phoebe chattered on, then, seeing I remained silent, felt bored. She shoved a basket of plum blossoms at me, patted her skirt, and left. "I was going to send these to you, but you take them back yourself. They're all good. I picked them out for you after a long time." I sat by the pond until the sun gradually set. My fishing rod hadn't moved. It was probably not good for fishing in winter. Usually, I was never bored. After 2 days without seeing Willis, something felt off everywhere. Dinner was already served. I stopped the housekeeper. "When will my lord return to the mansion?" He looked troubled. "If even the young lady doesn't know, how would I? Perhaps tomorrow or the day after." I nodded, hastily ate half a bowl of dishes, then pulled a few of Willis's commonly worn clothes from the cabinet, rolled them into a long strip, and placed them by my pillow. Monsters never feared passing time. They just built a nest and slept. I held the clothes but tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Willis disliked incense. and his clothes only carried a faint scent of soap, which soon dissipated after I buried my face in them. The bamboo wind chimes chimed twice. As the lamplight flickered, there was movement in the courtyard. I sat up and lifted the gauze curtain. Willis pushed open the door and entered. The cold wind dispersed the warmth. He entered secretly, but I knew it. He untied his cloak and handed it to a servant, then looked up and saw me. "Why aren't you resting yet?" I said. "I was waiting for you." He stopped by the brazier, his sleeves still showing traces of blood. After warming his hands, he walked to the bed and pinched my face. He lowered his eyes, picked up a robe, paused for a few moments, then looked at me again, his gaze much softer. "Can't sleep?" I wrapped my arms around his neck. "You weren't here. I'm not used to it. It's my fault. Rest now. I'm going to wash up." He put away his clothes one by one, took off his outer robe in front of the mirror, and removed his jade crown. The candlelight was extinguished. The sound of water pattered. Soon, someone parted the bed curtains. I rolled to the inner side of the bed, making space, then skillfully rolled into a damp embrace. Willis took shallow breaths, then sighed deeply. "Don't wait up in the future," I said. "Before, in the Eastern Palace, not waiting would result in punishment." He snorted. "That means Sean didn't care for you." I didn't dare speak immediately. How could he directly address the Crown Prince by name? It was extremely disrespectful. He lowered his head. "It's just the two of us here. Let's not talk about the distinction between ruler and subject. I only ask you, which is better, the Eastern Palace or Willis's mansion?" I mumbled evasively. "I'm sleepy." Willis gently pinched the back of my neck. "Do you like Sean or do you like me?" I begged for mercy, hugging his waist. "I'm really sleepy," he chuckled, finally not pressing further. His chin rubbed heavily against the top of my head. I rested against his chest. His casual collar was slightly loose. His skin, fresh from bathing, was cool. As the moisture dissipated, the warmth returned. Willis patted my back, then suddenly spoke again. "You only said your surname is Jean. It seems you never told me your given name." "My name is Yuani. My mother gave it to me. She said I was her first child. Yuan yuan, round round. Sleep." I closed my eyes. This sleep was restless. I kept dreaming of being tied up and thrown into a wolf's den. My body was tense, breathing restricted. Hot breath brushed my forehead, between my brows. I opened my eyes in a daze, but it was Willis, holding me tightly. Kisses, dense and chaotic, fell, barely touching, almost imperceptible. The hand gripping my shoulder trembled, as if holding back something. He stood, exhaling slowly, then carefully took my lower lip between his. There was only a slight sting, which he quickly restrained. I had adapted to the darkness. In the dark, our gazes met. I quietly opened my eyes. "Can you not hold me so tightly? I can't breathe." He froze instantly, then fled from the bed like an escapee, rushing into the washroom. This time, Willis seemed truly upset. He forced himself not to see me for 7 or 8 days. He was either busy or entertaining guests. This morning, when I woke up, the servants had already packed his things, saying he was busy and didn't want to disturb me, so he would sleep in a separate room from now on. But it should be me who moves out, shouldn't it? I was drowsy. I slept in the study, and he slept in the side room. I became the master. The matron pressed me back onto the bed. Yes, the young lady is the true master. Hurry, don't show your face. A servant will be coming in soon. The study, once cleared of its belongings, was largely empty. A few items were missing from my dressing table. I knocked on Willis's door. "Horace, inside?" cautiously asked. "Who is it?" I casually grabbed a servant boy and made him answer. The room finally fell silent. When he saw it was me, he instantly turned red from his neck to his ears. He hurriedly fumbled for a teacup, splashing a few drops of hot water. "Is something the matter?" I kept a straight face, not answering, while tracing patterns with my fingertips. I found a brow pencil on the desk. I didn't know when he had taken it to draw my eyebrows. He had casually tossed it next to the inkstone after using it. I guess this foolish bachelor probably mistook my brow pencil for a writing brush and took it with him. I dressed myself while watching him in the mirror. Willis ground the ink for a long time, only writing half a character. Impatient, I slammed the wooden comb onto the windowsill and strode out. He grabbed my sleeve, his voice hoarse. "I didn't intend to avoid you. I feel like I've done something ungentlemanly, going against what a teacher would advise, but I'm willing." At my words, he choked violently, his face aghast. I spread my hands frankly. Do you think I'm naive? I was in the Eastern Palace at 14. If you count my cultivation days, I could be someone's grandmother now. That's different. Willis's throat moved slightly. Sean is a beast. I can't be like him. A brief, subtle pause. I rubbed my nose. You're saying something that could get your head chopped off again. He calmed his breathing and pressed my shoulders. In short, understanding those things and understanding your own feelings are different. Tell me if you're willing when you understand. I was ushered out, feeling a bit annoyed. Willis avoided me. I heard he went out for a few days again, meeting who knows who. I was cooped up in the mansion, unable to bear it any longer. I hadn't seen my foster mother in a long time. It was a good chance to visit her. I sent a letter to the Crown Prince's mansion in the evening, and there was a reply. The Crown Prince allowed me to enter the villa. The letter included a jade token. I packed my change of clothes and arrived at the hot spring palace during the night. My foster mother was already asleep. When she opened the door and saw me, she was startled. What's wrong? Why are you back here? I put down my bundle and lay on her bed. The Crown Prince allowed me to come back and stay. Mom, I'm hungry. His Highness is kind, but such undisciplined behavior must not be repeated in the future. She lit a match, opened a cabinet. You're not allowed to light a stove at night. Eat some pastries to tide you over. The oiled paper package contained various snacks, quite abundant. I wrapped myself in the quilt, eating a piece of pastry with a sip of cold tea. Later, I'm going to soak in the hot springs. Mom, you rest. You don't have to wait for me. She rolled her eyes, almost fainting. Agatha, are you out of your mind? You're now someone close to Master Willis. You don't return to the mansion at night, and you soak in the hot springs at the Crown Prince's villa? I pouted. He doesn't care about me anyway. My foster mother put down the match, her expression hardening. Doesn't Master Willis treat you well? No. I dodged, slinging my bundle over my shoulder. I'm going for a bath. Don't overthink it. She wanted to persuade me but only sighed. I closed the door and, with practiced ease, found my way to my old home. Cultivating and transforming from the bottom of the hot spring pool back then had undoubtedly made countless stone spirits envious. To return home in wealth but not show it was like traveling at night in brocade clothes. I jumped into the hot spring. Every time I immersed myself in the water, I would soak until dawn before crawling ashore. I threw myself onto the bed in the sleeping quarters. This sleep was full of fright. When I opened my eyes, the hall was brightly lit. The eunuch stood in rows. Outside the gauze curtain, Sean leisurely leaned against a white porcelain cup, tapping it rhythmically. A string of jade beads was hidden beneath his black robes, around his fingers. Awake? Sean looked at me indifferently. I dragged my shoes and sat opposite him at the tea table. How does His Highness have time to be here? His gaze slowly swept over me, then retracted. After finishing official business with Willis, I remembered you were here and came to sit for a while. He brought up Willis again. I didn't want to answer and turned my face away. He peeled a tangerine and casually added, Willis doesn't seem to know you came to the hot spring palace. Whenever I mention him, he loses his composure. He dislikes me, so naturally, he wouldn't care about these things. Sean's hand paused. Is that so? Silence again. He placed the tangerine segments on a porcelain plate and pushed them toward me. Since Willis doesn't treat you well, come back to the Eastern Palace. Are you willing? His expression wasn't joking. To send me away and then ask me to return? How could such a thing be? Your Highness should ask Master Willis, I said, my face sinking. To be given away and then taken back. It was never up to me. The jade beads clenched in my palm rubbed against each other, making a rustling sound. Sean gazed at me unblinkingly. No mind. It's snowing outside. Willis's wild horses can't traverse the muddy roads. I'll send you back. The Eastern Palace's carriage is spacious. I sat far away in a corner, warming myself by the incense burner. When we parted that day, there wasn't a hint of reluctance on your face. How is it that after 3 years in the Eastern Palace, you've developed a shred of affection? He closed his eyes, his mother scattering a few jade beads. I warmed my hands and replied, Your Highness has many concubines. I suppose it doesn't matter much whether there's one more or one less. It was still snowing heavily outside, and the carriage would take another quarter of an hour to reach the city. Sean half opened his eyes. Are you still fond of Willis? I was about to speak, but I didn't know how to answer. The coachman pulled the horses to a stop and announced loudly, Your Highness, Master Willis is ahead, here to pick up his lady and take her home. I straightened my clothes and was the first to step down from the carriage. Willis dismounted quickly and pulled me behind him. He bowed to the carriage. "My respects to your highness. With your highness's permission, your humble servant and his wife shall depart." Sean responded faintly. The snow fell thickly. Willis kept his hands cupped in salute, his shoulders dusted white. When the carriage disappeared, he straightened up and pursed his lips. "Let's go home. To send you off." Familiar maids stood waiting in front of the mansion, a line of carriages and guards. They moved dry food and various items, bag by bag, onto the horses. Phoebe had changed into a brightly colored dress and was pulling people to say goodbye. I hesitated, breathing shallowly, inexplicably not wanting to go forward. Phoebe spotted me. "Oh, my dear young lady, you're finally here." I was pulled forward, stumbling, and a piece of cloth, seemingly a hand warmer, was thrust into my arms. "It wasn't for nothing. It wasn't for nothing. Everyone gets a share. You too." I put away the hand warmer. "Are you not coming back?" She was about to get emotional, but then suddenly blurted out, "Of course I'm coming back. I'm not dead." "Then why are you leaving with such fanfare?" Her mouth opened and closed, speechless for a long time. "When friends leave for a distant journey, don't you feel sad? Don't you say goodbye?" "I don't know," I said. "I've never had friends or family leave before." "Now I believe you." She looked at me with a complex expression. "TSK. Everyone says you're like a block of wood with no heart, but I don't care. I'll miss you." It wasn't just her leaving. Many servants and maids from the mansion were boarding carriages to depart. Willis brushed snow from my shoulder, watching the carriages disappear into the white expanse at the end of his vision. Just now, Phoebe, who had been so noisy, was standing in front of me. Now, only a well-embroidered hand warmer remained. I suddenly began to miss her. Why are they leaving? Where are they going? To scout the Northwest. Scout the Northwest? I clutched my sleeve. "Are we not staying in the capital anymore?" "Not we," he said. "It's me." I looked up, but Willis lowered his gaze, avoiding mine. He draped his large cloak over my shoulders. "I have official duties entrusted by the Crown Prince. I will be heading to the Northwest in a few days. You and Sean aren't on good terms. Why are you working for him?" "It's not that we're not on good terms." He patiently tied a bow, pulling the knot tight. "But I asked him for you. He agreed, and I owe him a favor. In exchange, if he asks for something, I should repay him with my life." I didn't understand. "Nothing is worth exchanging your life for. Some people, some things are worth it." The snow fell harder. Willis pulled me into his embrace. We returned to the mansion, and the doors closed again. The maids who served my meals had been replaced by entirely new faces. Apart from the housekeeper and Willis, it seemed there was no one I knew in the mansion. Oh, and Horace. He always stopped me from going to see Willis, which was incredibly annoying. I lay with my eyes open, listening to the sounds from afar. Willis had just finished discussing matters with someone. I heard the guests bidding farewell and leaving. I sat up, bypassed Horace, and entered Willis's bedroom. The candles had been extinguished. Tonight, hidden behind clouds, the moonlight was faint. I slipped into the quilt. The person on the bed suddenly opened their eyes and grabbed my hand. Yuan, how did you get in?" "I'm just giving you face." "Do you really think these people indoors can stop me?" I lay on his chest, without raising my eyes. "I just came in when I wanted to." He gently pushed me, trying to dislodge me. I remained steadily sprawled, unmoving as a mountain. The body beneath me was stiff and hot, his heart thumping through his chest. He audibly swallowed several times. "Phoebe left. I miss him a little." "I also said if you left, I would miss you too. So take me with you." His breathing stopped. His palm caressed my back for 12 counts. "The Northwest is harsh and cold. You wouldn't be able to bear it." "I can bear it. From Sean's kitchen to your place, haven't I gotten used to it? The food here is good or not good." "What about over there, with the rain?" "It's not different. You'll get used to it too." He stopped talking. I sat up. A sliver of moonlight filtered through the lattice window. My vision was blurry. In the darkness, I could make out the contours of his face and nose bridge. I looked into his eyes. The Crown Prince asked if I wanted to go back to the Eastern Palace with him. I didn't know how to answer, but just now, I figured it out. "I can't bear to leave you." His bed legs groaned. Willis turned over, embracing me in return, his breathing ragged. I accidentally pressed down the bed curtains, and with a ripping sound, the soft silk caught. 2 entangled fish escaped, their lips and collarbones meeting. My lower lip stung slightly. He buried his face in my neck, asking in a low voice, "You sought me out for this, Master Willis?" No one has ever called him that. Sweat beaded on his forehead, interrupting him fiercely. "You'd better not mention Sean right now." I pushed him. "Then you move." My words were sparse. I slowly settled myself beneath him. Suddenly, a gasp. For over a decade, my days continued as usual, only busier. The servants held the lanterns high, decorating the surroundings with festive red. After several banquets, rewards continuously arrived at the mansion. The Crown Prince submitted a report, stating that Willis's tenure as editor in the Hamlin Academy was complete, and he should be promoted. Willis was granted the title of censor in the censorate, and the emperor specially appointed him to inspect the Northwest. Regardless of whether his governance was good or not, it would be at least a 3-year period of experience. The servant who had gone ahead sent a letter, confirming that arrangements had been made for our residence in Gonjo. I consciously began to sort my belongings, moving my usual items out of the bedroom. Horace stomped his foot in exasperation. Throughout history, Hamlin academicians have been upright. It's only out of necessity that my lord must leave the capital. Even throwing a tantrum won't change official rules. Why bother? Why bother throwing a tantrum? I said. I'm packing my things to go with him. He looked blank, completely unaware. I finished organizing my clothes and happened to meet the steward who had come to check the luggage manifest. A batch of miscellaneous items had already been shipped away. I asked for the manifest and read it carefully. Not a single item was mine. Horace was silent now too. I calmly asked, "When does my lord depart?" He bowed deeply, his head lowered. "Who from the mansion will accompany him?" He still didn't speak. I pushed open the study door and waited by the tea table. Outside the corridor, the lanterns were replaced with new bamboo ones. Willis returned, bringing a guest. I poured tea on the side, watching him awkwardly avoid me. I absently conversed with the guest about trivial matters until there was nothing left to discuss. The guest bid farewell. I sat upright, playing with a Go piece, delaying for half an hour. "Have you thought about how to humor me?" He, however, asked. "What do you think of that Master Wren we just met? What do you want to say? Why don't you speak plainly? He's a friend I trust. You'll stay in the capital for now. If you need anything, go find him. I'll pick you up in the Northwest once I've assessed the situation." The candlelight flickered, and the wind outside howled loudly. The lattice window was tightly closed, and the brazier made the room warm. A Go piece dropped into the bowl with a click. Willis held a teacup, touching my fingertips. Yuan, don't be angry." I pulled my hand back, overturning the Go board. Black and white pieces bounced and scattered noisily. Horace urgently knocked on the door. "My lord, get out," I shouted, then said word by word, "What am I to you? Yuan, I have my reasons. Even if it's difficult, you can't abandon me." His eyes were red. My breathing was ragged. I leaned back in the chair, looking up. "When you liked something, you took it. When you found it troublesome, you just passed it on." I steadied my breathing, my emotions much calmer. "Before, you exchanged a favor for me. Now, you're using me to exchange for another person's favor." Before I finished speaking, his face instantly turned pale. "I never meant that." He desperately grabbed my sleeve, almost pleading, "If you don't want to see strangers, you can temporarily stay in the Eastern Palace." How utterly ridiculous. My mind was filled with indignation, only finding it laughable. "You discuss with me again, bringing me here and sending me there, and then you ask for my opinion?" Before, in the Eastern Palace, Sean favored me the most, but he didn't care about my thoughts. Later, with you, you were willing to talk to me properly. I was very happy. I liked you, but you lied to me and treated me like a plaything. I pulled his hand away, without much effort. His aunt's face and the back of his hand were covered in unfamiliar dampness. He stared at me blankly, his lips trembling slightly. I wiped my hands on my dress. "I don't want to waste any more time here. I want to find a good person for myself. Someone who can help me calmly comprehend emotions and find the opportunity to ascend." Willis's throat moved, his fingertips trembling, watching me lift the bamboo curtain and sob. Willis and Horace stood outside the door, anxiously coming forward, but when they saw me clearly, they didn't dare approach. I hastily packed my belongings and requested a horse. The guards stood far away, silently surrounding me. With the Crown Prince's jade token, I entered the hot spring palace without hindrance. A eunuch behind me reminded, "Young lady, please be careful. His Highness is arriving today. Be careful not to bump into him." I abandoned my horse and took a shortcut to avoid him. Unexpectedly, I still met a familiar guard who greeted me. I skirted around him and walked away. Whispers followed me. Why does she look like she's been crying? You're 99% mistaken. That day at the hunting ground, I saw with my own eyes how she took a horse kick to the stomach and got up without a sound. Damn it, why would I lie to you? She really cried. I'll go to the Juquet Street and lick your dad's grave if she didn't. I turned into the workers' quarters but couldn't find my foster mother. That's right, the crown prince was here, so all the palace servants had to be on standby. I then turned back to the main hall. Sean rarely waited for a while. Did Willis bully you? I said. I'm not staying in the capital anymore. I came to say goodbye to my foster mother. He dismissed the servants and made me sit with my foster mother. I left in a hurry and didn't bring any valuable items. I couldn't write or embroider. I had to split a portion of my spiritual energy to materialize something. I pulled out a beautiful stone as a gift. My foster mother held the stone, turned her back, and hastily withdrew. I returned Sean's jade token. Your Highness, I need some money, preferably small silver pieces and banknotes. He sipped his tea and ordered someone to prepare it. Thinking back, you rarely showed emotions in the Eastern Palace. That day, you were calmer than a shadow guard protecting me. I was confident I could protect your Highness, so naturally, I didn't need to panic. You just never felt anything for me. He put down his teacup and pushed both the jade token and the banknotes towards me. Keep them, putting aside personal feelings. There is always kindness between us. After leaving Willis's mansion, I didn't know where to go for a while. I stayed at an inn in the suburbs of the capital. I occasionally met a few traveling merchants. Some were heading south to buy silk, some were coming to the capital for business, and some were transporting grain to the west. I ate in a corner, observing two groups of over a dozen people. The leader was a young man in an emerald brocade robe embroidered with gold threads. His peach blossom eyes were full of impatience. He rolled up his sleeves, tapped the table with his fan, and addressed the teahouse owner. Shopkeeper, your tea is so thin it could float a feather. Please change it. I want pear blossom white. His black hair was tied high in a ponytail, sweeping against the back of his chair repeatedly. Whispers filled the room. Selling grain in the Northwest? That's not a good idea. This young master must have been tricked. A pampered rich kid who doesn't know the difficulties of the trade routes. He'll lose everything and learn his lesson. A man at the opposite table, in his 40s, spoke mockingly. I offered him a cup of wine. He paused, narrowed his eyes. I asked, why can't one sell grain in the West? Only then did he take the wine, snorting. The few escort agencies that dare to take the trade route to the Northwest can be counted on one hand. If that delicate, green-feathered peacock isn't robbed of both himself and his goods, I'll chop off my head and let him kick it like a ball. He didn't say anything more. He glanced at me. Young lady, don't inquire about such things. I took out a banknote. Which escort agencies dare to go to Gonjo? Please advise. He picked up the banknote, his lips twitching slightly. Is this 520? I casually glanced at it, also a bit surprised. I hadn't expected Sean to give me such a large amount. He put away the money and looked around. Go out and say it. I stood up and followed him into a dark alley. This is a dead end. He stopped and turned around, looking at me with incomprehension. You have no sense of caution at all. I told you to follow, and you just followed me. I've been on your tail for half a month now. You don't have any murderous intent. Besides, there are people in the inn constantly watching my movements. Whether they're from Willis's mansion or the crown prince's, it's still unclear. Either way, they won't harm me. Suddenly, several figures leaped out from the shadows, slowly surrounding us. He looked ahead. Indeed, the murderous intent has arrived. Don't get in the way. Get behind me. Okay. I sat down cross-legged in a corner. He drew the large saber from his back. The hilt was roughly wrapped in red cloth, and a few rust spots gleamed dully on the blade. The man wasn't handsome, but his moves were swift and clean, like slicing gourds. He wiped the blood from the saber on his leg, then turned to look at me. Seen enough? Want me to bring you some tea? I patted my dress, then pulled out 2 more banknotes and handed them to him. The saber in the man's hand trembled. For a moment, it seemed like he wanted to cut me, but perhaps money smelled sweeter. He didn't actually strike me. He put away the banknotes, turned his back, and walked away. Go to the East City. The Hill Pond and Dragon Ridge escort agencies are trustworthy. As long as you're willing to pay, they'll guarantee your safety and your goods. Understood. Thank you. I nodded and walked past him towards the alley entrance. The man behind me barely dared to speak. If you say 2 more words, it'll be your life. I watched him for a while. Not long after, I boarded a small carriage. The swordsman, whose surname was Yi but had no given name, had wandered the Jianghu in his youth, believing himself to be a hero of his generation. After a drunken brawl with a dog, he was defeated, his heart shattered. Since then, he had washed his hands of the Jianghu and become talkative. Even while driving the carriage, he couldn't stop talking. I've seen ghosts. I've never liked dealing with you silent types. Sigh, why are you, a woman, going to the northwest by yourself? I heard the journey is treacherous. I just want to see how treacherous it is. He had to throw me aside. He turned his head to look at me, his eyes revealing his true thoughts. I heard you, I said. You said I was a fool, that I wasn't smart. My hearing is quite good. He drove me to the Hill Pond Escort Agency. The Hill Pond Escort Agency was bright and empty. There wasn't a single person in sight. He slammed his saber onto the counter, then knocked on the table 3 times. Yo! Footsteps approached from the back hall. Rare guest, esteemed guest, the dog thing knows its way back home. Figures emerged from the shadows, gradually filling the chairs. About 20 scattered individuals. I brought you a big business deal. The swordsman gestured towards me, then sat down beside me. This person with money is truly not smart. He's going to Guangzhou without goods. Just take her along. The woman at the head of the table scanned me. Customer, how many people do you want to accompany you?